how the engine produces your own power? With the alternator. You remember? The alternator have one terminal positive DC output. Okay. When the alternator is producing that current positive, how much is the output positive in the output of the alternator?
13.6.
How much? In between 13.6 and 14.1. You remember? It's a 14.1 volts DC. And that current, guys, continue here, continue here, continue here, and enter here. Pay attention. When I remove my, I hold this button 10 more seconds. And the motor is producing your own power. I remove my finger, and this power coming from the alternator enter here. I don't need that power, but continue with this and continue supplying power for the pump and the injector, and the engine continue running. Now the engine is running, permanent. Excuse me. Now I need to stop the engine. What is the process to stop a typical engine, gas or diesel? You have two ways. One way, interrupt the fuel. Other way, interrupt the air. What is more efficient? The air. Really the air. But what is most common? The fuel. In this particular case, to stop that engine, I need to cut this pump and close this solenoid. I need to stop the pump and cut this solenoid. And finito, the engine stop. I need to stop the transfer pump, and I need to stop that solenoid. And the fuel not enter in the fuel injection pump and not continue running. If it's diesel or if it's gasoline, it's exactly the same. Okay, pay attention. How I interrupt? With the stop relay. Remember, guys, follow me. In between this and this, how is the connection?
Open.
Normally, open. When I powered the relay, what happened with that connection?
It closes.
It's interrupted. Excuse me. In between this and this is normally open. When I power it, the contacts close and I have connection. Yes or not?
Yes.
In between this and this, with no power, is normally close. When I power it, open. Yes or not? Okay. In between this and this, with no power, is normally close. Okay. In between this and this, with no power, is normally open. Okay. I have an idea. Okay. I am going to move this one here, and I am going to bring that one here, and I am going to continue this one here, and because this is normally closed, I am going to bring this power here. You know? What is the meaning of that? That cable continue all the time here because I have power, constant power here. Yes or not? What happened when I press this button? Interrupt this current and interrupt this one, and no fuel, no solenoid, and the engine stop. Finito. This is universal for outboard, inboard, for generator is universal. Pay attention. My engine only crank, and no start. How can you help? What is your recommendation for the customer in your phone? Hey, my friend, can you go into the control box of your engine? Open the control box. Hey, my friend, you see 3 relays? Yes, I see the relays. Okay, those relays. Okay. You see the switches? Yes, one is preheat. Okay, those are the switches. No, I don't have switches. I have ignition switch. It's the same. Really, what is the problem? Engine crank, but no start. Fuel is not entering. Fuel is not, this pump is not running, or this solenoid is not moving. Hey, my friend, your engine is gasoline? Yes, my engine is gasoline. Can you go into the carburetor and check where is that solenoid? Oh, it's here. Can you turn on the ignition switch and verify if it's clicking? Yes, it's clicking, This is the solenoid, okay? All right, the solenoid is clicking. Clicking indicates that it's working, apparently. Excuse me, when you turn on preheat or ignition switch, this is preheat preheat, preheat. You hear the pump? You hear that pump? No? No? Ah, okay. Okay. You don't hear the pump. You don't hear the pump when you preheat here. Okay, my friend, can you prepare a couple of alligator cables? Positive and negative directly. Disconnect the positive, disconnect the negative, bring power here. Oh, now it's working. Ah, okay. The pump is good. But the signal is not coming from the relay. You see the relay? Into here. I have a question. When I press this button preheat, I activate this relay and I send power for the pump and the relay. Yes or not? But at the same time, when I press this button, I send current here and I send current here in the alternator. It's good?
No, but you gotta reverse diode.
No.
You got
For
diode.
that reason, you need protect here with
Diode.
a diode. All the harness, they have a diode over there to avoid that you enter current in the stator and you damage the alternator. That diode allows current coming out, but not allow current coming in. Pay attention. What is the symptom when you have problem with that diode? The customer said, my engine start, but I need keep my finger over there. Hold it. If I remove my finger, the engine, What is the meaning of that? There are two possibilities.
And your,
It's not coming current from the alternator.
Yeah.
Probably the alternator is damaged. Number one. Number two, this diode is blocked and the current is not going out. When I remove my finger from preheat, the engine stops. I need to keep my finger. That's not normal. It's supposed that after 10 seconds, when I remove the finger, the alternator produces your own power and the engine continue running. Of course, if the alternator is working, no? And if the diode is working. If the diode is in short, what happens? Block. There are a couple of switches in a typical engine designed to kill the engine in emergency. You remember those switches? Give me one. Coolant temperature switch and oil pressure switch. You remember that? Where is located the coolant temperature switch?
thermostat housing.
This is the thermostat, where the thermostat housing is located. And look at this. One is sensor and other is switch. One is sensor, is always here. Always here. This is for temperature. One is temperature sensor and the other is switch. What is the function? You remember that episode where I explained the difference between sensors and switches? Okay.
Sensor uses-
Switch, kill. And sensor, send the signal for the gauge or for the computer in some cases. Okay. Where is located the switch and the sensor thermal? In the thermostat housing. And the oil pressure switch and the oil pressure sensor?
Next to an oil filter.
Look, where the oil filter is located, you have switch and you have sensor. You have switch and you have sensor here. Everybody follow me? It's normal. It's normal. Normally the switch kill and the sensor send signal. Send is the sensor. Okay, we are going to install both of them, sensors and switches here. We are going to install the switches, the oil pressure switch and the coolant temperature switch to kill the engine in emergency. Those switches, this is the oil pressure switch, is normally in between the contacts, normally the purple cable to activate the fuel pump and activate the solenoid, pass here, continue here, enter here, look. The purple enter here, continue here, enter here, activate the solenoid, and continue and activate the pump. What is the meaning of that? This contact is normally closed. In normal condition, the current pass 10 and 10. In normal conditions. If the pressure of the oil decrease below the limit, what happened with this contact?
It opens.
Open, and no power here and no power here, and the engine stop. is normally
Close.
closed. And where is located?
Off.
In the path of the purple cable. In this path of this purple cable, I am going to install the oil pressure switch. And also, in the same path, I am going to install another switch. The coolant temperature switch to interrupt that cable. That's clear, guys? Oil pressure and coolant temperature in series with that purple cable. And the other one, the kill switch that you have in the control box, could be here. And other kill switch. This is the kill manual switch, no? In other words, I need interrupt fuel. Right, now guys? Okay, we are going to connect the tachometer. You remember the tachometer have a 3 terminal here. One terminal is signal, ground, and ignition. You remember?
Yeah.
Ah, of course. Ignition is the same purple cable. Enter here and activate ignition for this, and for this. No? Guys? Ignition. Ah, what about ground? Ground is ground, no problem. And what is the signal for the tachometer, guys?
Alternator.
It's coming from the alternator. What output of the alternator?
The AC.
The AC output normally is covered with a plastic. You remember that? With a piece of plastic. And what is the color of that cable?
Gray.
Ay, Dios mío. What is the color?
Brown.
What is the color?
Tan.
What is the color? Check the book.
Gray.
Gray.
I said gray.
Ah, of course. The alternator needs one purple cable from excitation. Purple. And other cable here from this positive enter in the sense. I explained in the previous chapter how to connect the alternator. Okay, I am going to connect the oil pressure gauge. The oil pressure gauge have 3 terminals: ignition, ground, and signal. Ignition, ground, and signal for temperature. Ignition, ground, and signal for fuel. Okay, the oil pressure sensor, where is located the oil pressure sensor? In the bracket where the oil filter is located.
Yeah, but off it.
Okay, and what is the color for oil?
Blue.
For the signal?
Light blue.
Light blue. And it's coming from the oil pressure sensor. Oil pressure sensor. Sensor, no switch. Sensor. What about the temperature gauge? The signal. What is the color for the signal? Tan.
Tan.
Tan. Tan color here for the signal. Tan color. And the other one here is ground. And of course here you have the ground. What about the fuel?
Pink.
Once again, you have ignition coming in, ground, to the negative bus bar, and the signal. What is the color for the signal, guys? The color is pink. Pink. And here is the ground. I am going to connect another gauge. Here is the hour meter. One is negative, and the other terminal is positive. Where is coming the positive terminal for here for the hour meter? Hour meter, guys.
The alternator.
From the alternator, from the positive of the alternator. Only when the alternator is producing power, the hours advance. Yeah, guys? Orange cable. normally. And now, guys, you have a complete harness for any type of marine engine, gas or diesel. In this particular case, for a generator, but it's exactly the same.